I got you. Let it vibe real quick. Look. The city eyes, it's time to vote God. My God, a real nigga, cause he wasn't no flaw. Posted on the corner like a watchdog. Family secure, got that shotty in the closet by the mob ball. Fuck what they heard, but tell them it's all true. Be cautious, that foundation falls till you fall through. They gon' fall. Look, I keep this shit 50 times two. Ain't no more heart in this game, I'm John Q. Colder than the avalanche, way above average. Beers taste sweet, told him make me an apple crisp. Left us in the valley full of bones, this where hope found. Child become a man, dark sands get broke down. Riding through Evanston with Mark Quad, telling me how the crackers turn his childhood to a ghost town. Focus out, nigga, I lay that game down. I feel his pain, cause nothing is the same now. Never light shine like heaven through a rain cloud. Glock have a fit like my child, no tangent. Try to warn them niggas, we bear arms like tarantulas. Them other niggas rap, I make anthems. I really seen prophets under this banner. Made my enemies bow down on camera. Told my design I wanted black and white like a panda. I'm better than that nigga that sunk dirty Diana. Look, I move like a Brazilian, precious cargo, spirit ancient, but I got a new semi-auto. Wave that bitch around like where's Wardo. Sleep if they won't, I cut through they Z's like I'm Zorro. Pay me for his name, so I gotta keep that steel clutch. Trust me, I'm not what you think. I squeeze till it click like Dorothy when the heels touch. The world got me dumb, I don't feel much. Ride with Yara down, just left the state bridge. Looking for a bitch better than Baby's kid. Remember I dropped Quiet Storm, I've been gone ever since. Still in the field, fuck them niggas on the fence, yeah. Yeah, you know what it is. 140 for the rapper, busy man, shit, nigga. They take their head off, nigga. I read what Eve did to Adam. I just pray my love don't lie to me. Swing the iron like Samson, I can't let no holder lie to me. I don't feel these rappers, all they lies is hypocrisy. Ain't no competition, ain't no rivalry. Nigga think I'm playing, I don't hear one word they saying, this shit light work. Think Muhammad one of us, he might lose his life first. Suckle up and stay alert. Another cop just stretch the nigga. He ain't demon, this an exorcism. Watch out, bless the nigga. You took that oath in blood, then you know I'm gon' get active with you. From the opposition, I see vision. Let me paint the picture. Rappers claim they spit and I ain't listening. Is in fact the being woman stupid like Jake and War. We gon' run the summer, it's gon' be historical. Thought they making plays, made them niggas call the audible. Ask who run this shit, but that question is rhetorical. Bitch, I'm the one eating cookies with the oil. I'ma get them crackers, hell, should've never kidnapped my family. I can't do that, bet I be the last nigga standing. Do a life sentence for my niggas, pray you understand me. I might put a switch on this Glock and call it young baby. How you real trigger know them dots, you a bird feeder. Claiming he a demon, what's a demon to a cold leader? What he saying something, I ain't hear him, this shit life. It ain't no who got the gun, it's no who gon' up that fight first. I turn a bad situation to a game change. Bring soldiers from the dead, just raised up the chain. 6 shots, I'ma look like Aaron Jones when I run it. Never bite the hand that speaks, and you'll never get that hand back. Bitch about 10%, I don't wanna hear none of that. He dropping sword, fuck him, just make sure you get that cover back. Look around, he ain't with us, probably cause he never was. Now my chin like you with the angels for your brothers. Everybody wanna be Richard Porter, God kill him like Alpo. Play if he want, it's laying in the trunk like Lee Malvo. I'm a certified woman's ass nigga, I am not a toy. Hey, I with that hollow sign, yeah, this the rim accord. Feel like Gullah Jake when I'm in Fayetteville, you feel your boy. Still up on my bread, still I think that's all that I do. The way I get that boy lost, they gon' start to call him Elroy. Fuck his game, pop out on them demons like I'm Hellboy.
Hey, Shalom Israel. Yabashim Yashar Barakatham to the brothers. Yashim Thumb Bashim Yashar to the sisters. The Priest Officer Parak holding down the Wednesday law class for the ISUPK out of Arizona. All right, if you're watching online, the very bottom of the screen, you can find our class location. We right off of 28th Drive in Cactus. Class schedule is every Tuesday through Friday from 7 to 9 p.m. Concept. And then every Saturday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon is our Sabbath service. Also, every Saturday, we hold food drives at 3 p.m. From from 3 to about 4, 3 to 4:30, over off of 9th Avenue in Jackson. Um, if y'all from the Phoenix area, y'all know it's a pretty big homeless community. But of course, if any brother or sister needs food or anything like that, y'all of course are more than welcome to pull up at that time. Once again, it's every Saturday from 3 to around 4:30. Um, so with that being said, we'll go ahead and get started. So today we're going to be talking about Revelation, the 20th chapter. We're going to break the entire chapter down. We're going to get the precepts. We're going to get some history. We're going to completely understand by the end of this class what Revelation, the 20th chapter is. We're going to tear down any strongholds that the Christians have on this chapter, because a lot of people, um, mainly Christians, absolutely obliterate this chapter in their understanding. They do not understand what this chapter is talking about. That's actually how we're going to start. We're just going to read the first 3 verses, and I'm going to tell you what it's not, and then I'm going to tell you what it is. All right? Because if anybody grew up in the Christian church and they teach you about end times, there's a certain and then Christ is his kingdom. They call that the millennium reign, all right, or the millennium period, whatever they call it. We're just gonna 100% refute that before we, get the proper understanding. Um, all right, so I'm gonna start off in Revelation, the 20th chapter. Let's see. I'm gonna add this to the stream so y'all can see it. All right, so we'll be in Revelation 20. We're gonna start at verse 1. You want to read it? I can read it. You know what? So like, because of these fans, it's probably better if I read it. Yeah. Um, that's another thing we can do too. We can get another mic to this too, like how they got in New York. We probably do that. Yeah, yeah. That'd be heavy. Cause yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. All right. So this is Revelation, the 20th chapter, beginning of the first verse. It says, "And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand." Verse 2 says, "And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loosed a little season." So now what the Christians is going to tell you that this means is that Christ is going to return, and he's going to shut Satan up in some prison somewhere, and he's going to keep Satan in the prison, and for 1,000 years Christ is going to reign, and then after that 1,000 years is up, Christ is going to be dethroned. Like, he's going to get shoved off his throne by Satan, and Satan get to rule again. That's what they're going to teach you based on that. And so we got to understand that there's a problem with that, because if that's the case, then the Bible contradicts itself. All right, because we can see clearly, and we'll go over them quickly. Um, we'll go over them quickly, and we'll see that there are too many precepts that say when Christ returns, his kingdom is to stand forever. So, and the fact that anybody could believe that Christ is going to establish his kingdom and get dethroned is beyond me. It don't make no sense to me. It don't make no sense, right? We see all of these scriptures about how Christ is going to come back, and he's going to put people's heads to the goddamn earth, and it's going to be blood up to the horse's bridle when Christ returns. He's going to subdue all these nations. What? Just for them nations to then subdue him? Right. That's crazy. Don't make any sense. So now we're going to read 1 Thessalonians, the 4th chapter. We're going to read it from verse 16 on down. says, "For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of God, and the dead in Christ shall rise first." Now, this is talking about when Christ returns. Verse 17 says, "Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds." Right? In the end times when Christ returns, just to give you, we'll go over it a lot more when we break down this chapter, right? But when you go into what's going to happen when Christ returns is Christ is going to return with a legion of angels and with chariots, and those chariots are going to take up the saints. Right. All the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans that have kept the law, that have done the right thing and followed the Most High, they're going to go up on them chariots, right? And everybody else is going to be left in America. Everybody else that did not keep the law, statutes, and commandments, did not do what they was told to do by the prophets, they're going to be left here. And then there's going to be thermonuclear warfare, and this place is going to be destroyed, and it's going to turn into a lake of fire. But says, "Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds." Why? Because Christ is coming to save us, to deliver us from that doom that is definitely coming to America. And if we keep reading, the second half of verse 17 says, "To meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord." So understand that when Christ returns, right, we're going to be with him forever. There's not going to be an interruption. It's not like we're going to be with the Lord for a little bit and then Satan's going to come and interrupt that. He's going to interrupt heaven. That don't make no sense, right? Let's get another one real quick. Put y'all, let me see. We're going to be in Luke, the first chapter. Put it up on the screen for y'all. We're going to be down at the 31st verse. And it says, "And behold, thou shalt conceive in thy womb and bring forth a son, and shalt call his name Jesus," or Yahushua, right? This is the angel Gabriel speaking to Mary, because she had been found with child, right? And this was, of course, before the ceremony, before her and Joseph got or had the ceremony, right? It was frowned upon for you to have the sex before the ceremony. But they had the sex. She got pregnant. They like, damn, what the hell do I do? Well, the angel Gabriel came and explained to her what was going on and that this was all designed by the Most High, right? And he said to her, "Thou shalt conceive in thy womb and bring forth the son, and shalt call his name Yahushua. And he shall be great, and shall be called the Son of the Highest. And the Lord God shall give unto him the throne of his father David, and he shall reign over the house of Jacob forever. And of his kingdom there shall be no end." So when we read Revelation, the 20th chapter, you have to understand that Revelation, the 20th chapter, can't contradict Luke, the first chapter. If Luke, the first chapter, says that Christ is going to return and be king and ruler forever, then that has to be what Revelation 20 aligns up with. Otherwise, the scriptures is contradicting each other, and we just throw away the Bible at that point, right? So let's get one more. And this is, of course, one that too many people know about, right? This is a common scripture. Go to it. All right. Make it a little bit bigger. Isaiah 9:7 says, "Of the increase of his government." Now, this is a prophecy talking about Christ, right? It says, "Of the increase of his government and peace, there shall be no end." Right? So when Christ returns to establish his kingdom, there's not going to be any end or any stop to it. Right? And it says, "Upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth, even forever." Right? So when somebody comes and tries to tell you and say Christ is going to return and then be dethroned after 1,000 years, you have to question them, because the Bible doesn't say that, right? And the scripture says that if they come speaking another doctrine, then you have to throw them away. You can't follow them. And that's what so many people are getting caught up in. They get caught up in the Christian church and the feel good of it, but they have to realize that they're not actually serving Christ. Nor do they understand what the Bible is. They serving their pastor, right? They're giving them tithes to that pastor and the offerings to that pastor, and the pastor's buying a Benz, what do you call that? Benz, right? A Bentley, a Rolls Royce, $1 million airplanes and private jets and things like that.
Pastor got on more money
right.
His neck than people in church.
Right.
House calls,
right. Old boy got robbed a couple weeks ago,
right.
And he had millions of dollars of jewelry.
Right.
And all of the niggas that's in his church that don't have $10. You know what I'm saying? The shirt that's on their back is from Goodwill for $2 that they bought 5, 10 years ago, and they still got to wear because they ain't got no money. But the pastor got it, right? And that pastor is going to teach you that Christ is going to sit on the throne for 1,000 years and then become dethroned by Satan. And that is too many things that go into that, right? Because then you have to say, well, that means the Most High doesn't have control over Satan, which we understand that Satan is just an angel. And he's an evil angel by design because the Most High utilizes him to do what needs to be done in order to prove people, to tempt people, to test people, right? The same thing that you find in the book of Job, right? But all of that is just confusion. When they teach against that and they teach that Satan somehow is, fighting against God and able to dethrone Christ off of his throne, right? It's just confusion, right? Um, Before we get to the rest of this, to breaking down this chapter, I want to bring out one more verse in the book of Revelation. All right. I just want to pull this up so we can fully understand that Millennium Kingdom garbage is just a doctrine created by a bunch of people that don't understand the Bible at all. All right. Revelation, the 11th chapter, the 15th verse says, and the seventh angel sounded, and there were great voices in heaven saying, the kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever. So all of these scriptures that I'm bringing out just prove more and more as we read them, all of the precepts that we pull in, it just proves that Christ, when he gets the kingdom, he's going to have the kingdom forever. So now, we're going to get into Revelation, the 20th chapter. We're going to break it down. We're going to talk about what this is actually talking about. I wanted to make sure I led um, with refuting that millennium reign doctrine because it's something that has a stronghold on our people. So many people believe in that. And since 1969, we have been the ones that have received the prophecy from the Most High. We're the ones that are truly able to discern and break down this book the way that it's truly supposed to be understood. All right. And I understand the Christian pastors when they try to, and the theologians, and when you go to theology school, they tell you about these verses and they try to tell you what it means, but they just don't have the spirit of the Most High. And if you don't have the spirit of the Most High, you're not going to be able to understand these things. The scriptures say in the book of Psalms, if you don't keep the law of the Most High, then you won't have understanding, right? That's in the Bible. If you don't keep the law, statutes, and commandments, you won't get understanding, right? Through thy precepts, I get the understanding, and through thy law, I get wisdom, right? So you have to be keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, and there's only one way that you can do that. So we're going to break this down the correct way. We're going to start off, I'll make it full screen so y'all can read it. We'll start off in Revelation, the 20th chapter, beginning with the first verse. It says, Salaki. It says, and I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. We just read that in the beginning of this class, but now we're going to get a breakdown on it, right? So that angel represents Christ. He has the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. Meaning he has the key to deliver the children of Israel, right? Verse 2 says, and he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. That old serpent, we got a whole breakdown on this. That old serpent that you find in the garden was a man of another nation that was trying to deceive Eve. Was trying to deceive Eve of keeping her culture that the Most High tried to give to her and her husband. Right? This was a man that was a deceiver, a devil. Today we call the white man the devil because that's what the Bible calls him, and that's what he is. When you go into the Bible and you look at the beast with the 7 heads and the 10 horns, you find out that the 7 heads are Edomite nations, and the 10 horns are Edomite nations that come out of those 7 heads, right? So we understand that Edom is that beast. So Christ is able, what has happened in the past, because we're going to find out that this is something that's already happened, is that Christ bound up our oppressor for 1,000 years, right? And the way that he did that, we're going to get some history. I got a book up here. We're going to get the history on it. The way that Christ bound up Satan for 1,000 years is by the Jews that were of the Byzantine Empire. They bound the Romans up into slavery. We're going to get the history on that. This is back in the time around 300 AD, right? well, between 150 and 300 AD, and you're going to find out that black people began to rule a majority of the landmass of Europe, right, which is called the Dark Ages. We get all of that in just a second, right? Um, so originally, I want everybody to understand this, right? Originally, the Roman Empire was overthrown in 193 AD, and that was by a black gladiator. It was a black man, right? His name was Septimius Severus, and that was the beginning of the rulership that black people had started to take over Europe, right? Let's get verse 3. Verse 3 says, and cast him into the bottomless pit, talking about our oppressor, talking about the white man. Cast him into the bottomless pit and shut him up and set a seal upon him that he should deceive the nations no more. Understand that at this time of Septimius Severus, black people were being oppressed, specifically the southern tribes of the nation of Israel were being oppressed and under servitude under the Romans, right? And so this man came and he overthrew that Roman government, right? And so that's what that's talking about, where it says, cast him into the bottomless pit and shut him up and set a seal upon him that he should deceive the nations no more, right? Because the Greeks and the Romans had taken control of our history. If you go into the book of Maccabees, you'll find that they tried to eradicate us as far as we couldn't even say that we was Jews. We couldn't even profess that we was Jews. We couldn't keep our customs, our Sabbaths, our high holy days. We couldn't keep any of those things because they wanted to deceive us. Well, now in this time in history, these people had to be shut up and cast into a bottomless pit, so they could not deceive us anymore. Until how long? It says until the 1,000 years should be fulfilled, and after that he must be loosed a little season. We're going to find out that age, right? That 1,000 years is the Dark Ages. All right, and that was a period when black people ruled many parts of Europe, and the Lord smote the lands where the white people lived with droughts and with plagues. You understand that a lot of these places where the white people mainly dwelt, you had the Black Plague, the bubonic plague, right? And a lot of what was going on is there was a cold front that came through the a great deal of the landmass of where white people lived, and that caused droughts and things like that. The Lord absolutely destroyed white people in this 1,000 year period and exalted black people. We're going to find all of the black kings and rulers of the Scots and the Irish kings that were black, right? And even black czars of Russia. We're going to find out all of these things, right? That was the Dark Ages, and that's Satan being shut up for 1,000 years. Our oppressor getting put in the dirt. All of the listen, the rate of death for white people in the time of the bubonic plague was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. But black people were thriving. And just so you can understand something about, how spiritual this thing is, when you look at black people when they come together, white people always end up on the bottom. But as soon as we separate from each other and want to join with our oppressor, that's when we end up on the bottom and white people end up at the top, right? Once again, during the Dark Age, and we're gonna get all of this history. Y'all just bear with me. I got a book right here. I got some history we're gonna pull up on the screen for y'all. Um, y'all are gonna start to understand that even the Dark Ages, when we got together as black people, we became kings and rulers and czars of all of these different lands. And white people was in the dirt, facing droughts, facing hell, the bubonic plague, which they, of course, called the Black Plague, right? All of these things while we ruled. It's spiritual. And the spirit behind it is what we read in Revelation, the 20th chapter. Then when you go into modern history and you find out that when we separated and we're not involved with white people in Black Wall Street, we was on top. We was going to be the ones that would establish our own government. We was going to be our own presidents, things like that. We had our own hospitals. We had our own, we had the Negro League, all of these things, own movie theaters, on diners, restaurants, schools, all of that. We had all of those things. Right, grocery stores. It was like 100% black because we decided that we was going to stick together, right? And then, of course, because our oppressor is the devil, he destroyed it. And instead of us trying to build that back again, we tried to integrate with him. And then now we're at the bottom. And mind you, all of them grocery stores and hospitals and colleges and all of those things that I was just talking about, that was at a time our economy was thriving, and white economy was in the Great Depression. And we was able to do that within America when everybody around us was suffering. We were winning. But as soon as we try to integrate with these people, we see what happens. We see that now there's no black-owned grocery stores. Ain't no black-owned liquor stores. That the Arabs then took that over. Ain't no black-owned nail salons. The Asians then took that over. So we don't have anything. Why? Because we've integrated with these people. And we're going to find out. And the reason why this breakdown is so important is because we find out that us being together is spiritual. It's spiritual. When we decide to do what Zephaniah, the second chapter in the first verse says, is gather ourselves together, O nation not desired. When we decide to do that, something spiritual happens, and then we actually end up on top. Anytime we've been a united front, nobody can mess with us. Nobody can put us down. We're going to be on top, and we're going to find out that for 1,000 years we reigned, and we had our foot on everybody's neck because we was the kings and princes of this place, of the entire earth. All right. So now, let me go ahead. I'm gonna bring up a couple of things out of this book. Y'all gonna have to bear with me. Um, this book is called The Negro Question, Part 4. If y'all can see that on the screen. All right. It's by Lee Cummings. I'm gonna just get a couple of examples out of here. This book was actually pretty decently compiled by a brother. It's got some pretty good information in it. I mean, it's a lot of information in here. And a lot of what it talks about is how we were the ones that were ruling during the Dark Ages. It goes through, excuse me, it goes through a lot of the history and a lot of the different black kings. It goes into King James being black. You know how we read the King James Bible. It goes into that brother being black. A lot of the rulers of the Irish, a lot of the rulers of the Scots, even once again, like I said earlier, Russian czars. All right, so let's get a couple. I could go through this whole book and show you, but let's get this German tapestry, because when we talk about this a lot of times we'll go into like we'll be real general with it. Like, yeah, we ruled Europe for 1,000 years, but I want y'all to understand something. We was all over the place in Europe, right? There was a time period when we was in Germany ruling. Like, can you imagine that? Can you imagine black people in Germany ruling? Right. Well, I'm gonna show y'all something on this tapestry. A tapestry is like a decorative, I don't know what you want to call it, like a decorative sheet, I guess, that a lot of times people hang up. So even Benjamin Franklin, if you find on this book, in page 61 of this book, you'll find that Benjamin Franklin wrote a lot of information about swarthy Irish, swarthy German, swarthy English, right? Swarthy means black. So even Benjamin Franklin, when you go back into the history and look at his a lot of what he wrote down, he was talking about the fact that a lot of the people that was in these lands were black, and the kings were black. But let's read. I'm let me show y'all this picture real quick. I wish I could pull it up. A lot of this ain't on like Google or nothing like that. But on page 62 of this book, if y'all happen to get this book, I think the book's only like $10, $14, something like that. All right. But this is in 1400 AD. I'm going to try to put it as close as possible so y'all can see it, right? Let's see. All right. So now if you look, that top image is the entire tapestry. It's like a sheet, like a decorative sheet. But then it zooms in at the bottom right of your screen. It zooms in on them people. And the people that were there, you can find that one of these people that you see here is the king. All right. And then a lot of these other cats that you see here are like soldiers that are protecting or guarding the king. And you'll find that these people are black people. Right. And let's go to another one, because that's Germany. Right. And in this book, you'll find that damn near every European province or country had a black ruler throughout the Dark Ages. So I'm gonna show y'all something, because Irish, when you think of Irish, you think of like dudes in kilts, like white boys with red hair and in like a kilt and like, plaid, right? That's what you think of. Yeah, like you think about the Vikings and things like that, and you think about white people when you think about Ireland. But I want to show y'all something. This was an Irish coat of arms. This right here was an Irish coat of arms. And not only does that, it's in black and white, but you can see even the facial features. Those are black men. And that was the Irish coat of arms. This was the family of Gilbert. All right. And that family was a ruling family in Ireland. And we talking about, and this goes back to 1635. All right, this goes back to 1635, just nearing the end of our rulership, and scattered across a lot of the European countries. But we was ruling, like black people were ruling in these places, right? A lot of people don't consider the fact the scriptures say right now in the end times that we will be scattered across the four corners of the earth. How do you think that happened? We was in these lands, and a lot of these lands throughout the Dark Ages, because Christ was able to get rid of. I told y'all about the czar, right? There was a few czars in Russia. A czar is basically just, it's like a king. They call it a czar for whatever the hell reason, because it's Russian. So on page 69 of this book, you're gonna see a picture of a black man that was a czar in Russia. All right, this man right here, you can see if you look. I'm hoping y'all can see, but y'all should be able to see that even the features on this man's face. That's a black man. All right, and when you have these pictures in color, they're dark skinned, right? And that man was a czar in Russia, right? This man ruled over Russia. So you got to think. So now all of this information, of course, they're not going to tell you. They're going to tell you that the Dark Ages was what, a time when, they bring out the plagues, they bring out the famines, the droughts, and things like that. But they don't realize. I mean, excuse me, they don't teach, because they know these things. This is history. It's easy to find, but they won't teach you that black people weren't going through those things. Like, we weren't going through the droughts and the plagues and things like that, right? We were set on high, ruling over nations. But they're not going to show you that. They're going to show you that, oh yeah, everybody was going through this terrible time in the Dark Ages, and they're omitting the fact that black people were ruling in them times.
To give you an example, in the 20s, when they had the depression in the 20s,
Yeah.
Black Wall Street, black people was living good.
Yeah.
But let them tell it. Whole America was suffering, and in the 20s, and that was the
Right.
time of Great Depression. When our actuality, we had Black Wall Street, total, we had all in great
Yeah.
seasons. Black people was thriving.
Right.
That's just like an example.
Yeah, it's a parallel. It's like the same thing. And the thing is, like with Black Wall Street, the black dollar didn't circulate outside of Black Wall Street for 30 days.
Right.
Now it takes 1 hour for the black. Is it 1 hour, or is it like, I think it's like 30 minutes?
Yeah.
Something like that. It takes
crazy. That's
yeah.
how we survive it. That's crazy.
We get money from our oppressor, and we don't spend it with each other. We go, our sisters, sometimes they'll go and get their nails done, and it's not by brothers or not by sisters.
Right.
It's by Asians. You get what I'm saying? We go, listen,
you got sisters that can do nails and hair. Huh?
Right, exactly. Right.
Yeah,
But you want to go to you want to go to Fufu up the street. That's what you want to go to. I don't know, whatever name they got. You want to go to that person, right? The one that's going to beat you up. She's going to whoop your ass out of that store, because, that's happened too many times in these Asian nail salons. You want to go over there, right? Our brothers, we like to have a drink sometimes, but there's no black liquor store to go to. So you're going to go to the Arab-owned or Elamite East Indian-owned liquor store, and you're going to spend your money over there, The grocery store, so my point is, right now it's too easy for us to take that black dollar and give it to somebody else, because we integrated with everybody. We decided it was better to be with everybody than to just be with each other, right? But as we can see, in times like this, when you have black rulers, we wasn't with everybody else. We might have been in trade with certain people, but as far as us, being integrated with anybody, no, it was just us. And black royalty was prevalent, right, for that 1,000-year span. And it was a little over 1,000 years. When the Bible says times and things like that, it's it's a roundabout, because we're not specific like white people are, right? We just I'll be there. I'll be there when the sun come up. So that's subjective. It might be 6 o'clock in the morning. Might be. I might say the sun coming up when you kind of see it's like a little bit of light. I might say the sun up, like the sun up. Like, I don't know. You see? So, but my point is, it was around. I would say the beginning of the Dark Ages was around like 200 AD. And I say the beginning, like that's when it kind of started to kick off. We kind of really took control in the 300s AD. But we didn't stop having black rulers until like I think 17. No, it might have been the 1800s. We had black rulers, but they're not going to teach you about that, right? Once again, like I read earlier, Benjamin Franklin had he had in his writings had accounts of black Russians, black Irish, right? Black Dutch, right? Because for a long period of time, it was nothing but black. All right. Let me see if I want. Let me do this one real quick. I got one more. Because the Russians one, that was kind of the. I was a tough one. I said, damn, we was in Russia. Russia, you don't think about black people when you think about Russia, but that we was there for a long time, right? This one I'm gonna show y'all is 1676. The timeline for this is between 1676 and 1681, where we were literally what Benjamin Franklin was writing about in his journal entries. He was talking about black Russians, and this is what he was talking about. Just make sure y'all can see it. All right, I know it's kind of tough to see. Let me see. All right, but if you look on the right side of your screen, that's just them zooming in, right? But those are black people that were in rulership, right? And it's too many. Like I said, I could literally go through all of this. I mean, there's too many examples of um, black people ruling what you would now call Edomite nations. Russia is you don't think about black people, you think about white people. You don't think about black people when you think about Ireland, right? But we were the ones that were ruling. King James was the king of the Scots, right? So when you think about Scotland, you think about white people, but in all reality, King James was a black man. When you go into the front of this book, one of the first pages here, let me see if I can find it. Right? That's King James. And King James, that was a black man. Let me see. Hold on. Right? That was a black man. And it's a lot of history on that. You can there's even a list, like if you go into this list over here on the side, I don't know if you want to just screenshot that or whatever the case, or if you can even see it. But that's a whole list of Scott kings that were all black. And it gives you the time period that they was reigning through and all of these things. So I just wanted to make sure we got some of that, some of those examples. All right. And that's what Revelation, the 20th chapter, is talking about in the beginning, right? When Revelation, the 20th chapter, talks about Christ bounding up, when Revelation, the 20th chapter, talks about Christ bounding up Satan for 1,000 years, it's that. It's us regaining our rulership. But instead of just being kings in Israel, we was kings over a majority of the known world at that time.
Yeah, that's it. Son. I'm thinking that in my head. Like,
Yeah.
For him to come from such a poor history,
Right.
Well, the pride that they carry and walk around today, is beyond me.
Right.
Their history is like nothing but dirt and filth and murder. Like that shit is not cool.
Yeah.
But let them tell it. Like,
and you know what's funny is they take it away from us and they put it on this. So like, you gotta King Herod came from a lineage of imposters, claiming to be Jews, claiming to be actual Israelites,
right.
Not converts. Herod was a goddamn Edomite, and he claimed that he was a Jew or that he was an Israelite. And they do it today, right now, consistently. The reason why they do that is because they don't have a culture of their own. They're a vagabond. That's what the Bible calls them, a vagabond on this earth. So a vagabond is somebody that doesn't have a home. They don't have a home. They don't have a culture. So they have to take it from everybody. When you think about America and the melting pot that America is, white people don't have their own culture. They're taking it from other people. You understand? And this melting pot that America is consists of too many different cultures for white people to just pick one and say, yeah, okay, that's me. I can do that. I want to do that. That's what their culture is, not having a culture. Their culture is taking somebody else's culture, right? And even when you go, Right. Ask the Native Americans, right? Like y'all got to read up. Go look up the term $5 Indian. Look that up. Think about how many white people are now. They're now claiming their white people are claiming Cherokee ancestry, and you know why a lot of them was doing it? Not only because, of course, the Native American history is a beautiful history, but because they were trying. Listen, when you go into the history of white people taking on Native American culture and trying to become Native Americans, tax cuts. That's what it was. Tax cuts and it was basically all about money.
Land rights.
Yeah, land rights and things like that. That's what it was.
Yeah,
But now you got some white boys saying, "Oh yeah, I'm Cherokee and this that and that." Like we know you're not Cherokee. We know you're not. But once again, that's their culture. Their culture is taking other people's culture. That's their culture, right? And that, of course, is what you see when all of the kings that's in this book. Every single king that's in this book and every czar that's in this book, everything that you find in this book is told to be white in your schools, in your history books, in certain history books, and things like that. Because these rulers were great, right? King James was a great ruler. You understand? Um, the czars like Tsar Alexis of Russia, he was a great ruler, powerful. He was a black man, but they're going to tell you and teach you that that was a white man, and that's because that's all they got. Don't the scripture say that they're going to paint their images over? They're gonna instead of it being a black image and us understanding that damn, because see, this is what happens, right? And before we move on, this is what happens. Do you know why white people are so confident? White people are so confident because they grow up in a society where the history books say that they've always been rulers. The history books say that they've always been the slave master and everybody else has been the slave. And I'm not just talking about black people. I'm talking about everybody. In the history books, it tells you that they've had Asians in slavery. They've had Arabs. Like, they have always been depicted as number one. And so a white child seeing that, he grows up in the mindset like, I'm the best. Like, nobody can stop me. They teach you about Alexander the Great, which, right. They teach you about Alexander the Great and Napoleon and what's that other cat? Christopher Columbus. They teach you about all of these people that were supposedly great, right? And they never tell them. And then they'll say King James was black. I mean, it was white. Then they'll say what's the writer Shakespeare. They'll say he was white when it's proof that Shakespeare was black. They attribute to him what? The greatest writer of all time, right? Mozart. They said that he was some white man with crazy hair. That was a black man. But they're going to tell you that all of these people are white because that's what builds up. That's what gives these white kids confidence. And then they grow up and become lawyers and doctors. And then you wonder why blacks and Hispanic children grow up and don't have any direction in life and don't have any confidence, right? Don't have any drive. All they can be is a gangbanger and a slave because that's what the history books tell them that they are. But the white kids get told, yeah, you guys were the best musicians, which, goddamn well. I don't know who the hell believe in today's day and age that the best musician ever was white. They ain't got no salt. Listen, Elvis, right? Elvis got his swag from Chuck Berry, which is a black man. Which is once again going back to my point that right. But it's like you said, a carbon copy of what? Us. That rock and roll was created by us, and they took that and ran with it, just like they did our history, just like they did our forefathers and everything about us.
They say Elvis is the greatest musician of all time. Nobody has sold more records than him. Right. Here's the thing: white people are gonna buy his records.
Eminem is another example.
Eminem, I was gonna go
He's one of the. I think is he the number one?
He's the number one
top selling rapper.
So according to them, he's the best rapper of all time. Not forgetting the fact that white people make up like what? I don't know how much percent of America like.
Yeah, and they gon' buy their own people's music. Like they support each other like we should support each other.
It's like an Asian saying that Asian food is the best. Yes, it's the best.
Right, for y'all, yeah.
You're Asian, it should be the best.
Right. And that's the point, you know what I'm saying? So like with all of that being said, you have to, that's why breaking down the scriptures properly is important, because somebody's going to break down those 3 verses that I just told to you and say that Christ is going to be dethroned from his seat. But when we break it down properly, we realize that this is talking about the fact that black people ruled for 1,000 years and were the top of the top, the creme de la creme, for 1,000 years, which can show you what we can do that. Like, you're never going to find in a history book where black people, the Negro, have been able to rule, have been able to have a civilized and ordered government and be able to do those types of things and be able to be great. But when you go into this Bible and you break down this chapter properly, you're going to find that, yeah, we was able to do it and we're going to do it again, right? So let's keep reading. So we're going to read, we'll skip down just a little bit. Let's see. Skip down just a little bit. And we're going to read verses, we're going to start at verse 7. So remember, Satan cast into that pit for 1,000 years. That's black people ruling for that 1,000 years. That's what that's talking about. Now, verse 7 is going to talk about when those 1,000 years are expired. All right, so verse 7 says, and when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, which is Russia and the countries of Russia, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea, right? And this is the Renaissance period. This is the period directly after the Dark Ages, and that began in like roughly 1300 AD. That's when that began, but this is a period of time, so it takes a lot of time for all of these things to happen. Once again, when we read it, it says go out. They're going to go out and deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, which is what the white man does, go and wreak havoc everywhere in the earth, right? And then he's going to gather them together to battle, and this is what's going to happen, right? After what we've already gone through, this deceiving has been happening to us. We don't know who we are. So after that Renaissance period, we stopped being Israelite rulers in these other nations and the Scots and the things like that. Now we became slaves again, right? That's what happened. We became slaves again. But then as time progresses, we see this part right here, to gather them together to battle. That's talking about when Christ is getting ready to return. It's talking about the Third World War. And Christ is going to return in the midst of the Third World War. All right. And just so we understand, right? So this Renaissance, it began in Italy. The Renaissance itself, right, which means the rebirth. It began in Italy. All right. And it progressively, over time, it started to spread to other areas in Europe where black people ruled. And that's when we started, because Satan was loosed out of his prison again. That's when we started to lose our power. Our kings began to be overthrown. And that's why you have white people ruling Scotland. That's why you had a white queen, the white queen bitch that just died. That's why, because the Renaissance period was them taking us out of our position of power. Before it was a white queen, it was a black princess in these places, a black woman that was the wife of a strong black man that was the king of those lands. But now you got these white women, Princess Diana, and things like that, and the queen that just died. All of those people are the replacement to the true people that was ruling that land at one time, which were black people. All right. So let's keep reading. Verse 9. Verse 9 says, Verse 9 says, and they went up on the breadth of the earth and compassed the camp of the saints about. Who are the saints? Psalms, the 55th chapter, will tell you that the saints are the Israelites. And so when they came and they regained their position as rulers, they went up on the breadth of the earth and compassed the camp of the saints about. They overthrew these kings. And it says, and the beloved city, right? But then if we skip ahead sometime, what does it say? It says, and fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them, right? This is when, so what we're talking about here, when they compassed the camp of the saints about, this is when the blacks and Hispanics became captives to white people. And this specific verse, it prophesies the thermonuclear war coming to America for his crimes against the Israelites. That's that fire coming down out of heaven. That's the prophecy of World War III and that thermonuclear warfare coming to America for the sins that is committed. Once again, if you go back a couple chapters, Revelation the 18th chapter, you find that this place has to burn because of its iniquity, because its iniquity has reached up to the stars of heaven. Because this captivity has been the worst captivity for blacks and Hispanics. We don't know who we are. At least in the Babylonian captivity, we knew we was Israelites. We knew what the laws was. But in here in America, in spiritually Sodom and Egypt, right, in mystery Babylon, we don't know the laws of the Most High. We don't know we're Israelites. A Mexican's gonna call himself Mexican at the most. If he gets a little bit of knowledge, he'll call himself Aztec. Right? A black man's gonna call himself African American. We don't know who we are. We don't know how to keep the laws of the Most High. We have to be retaught these things. This is the absolute worst captivity that blacks and Hispanics have ever been in. And that's why this place has to be destroyed. And that's why fire is going to come down from the Most High out of heaven and devour all of our oppressors. All right. Verse 10 says, and the devil that cast fire, right? But now we just read it onto the earth. And then that's when the the lake of fire is established. That lake of fire and brimstone is America. And it is a product of the punishment that America so rightly deserves. And now the devil, it says devil right here. If you go into the etymology of that word, it's talking about a deceiver. The person that deceived us, which we know is our oppressor, the white man, right? And they're going to be cast into that lake of fire, meaning they're going to be stuck here. America is going to be bombed to piss. And they're not going to have a way out. They're not going to be able to fly out on airplanes. They're not going to be able to row out on boats. They're not going to be able to escape this because this is judgment coming from the Most High, right? And it says also where the beast and the false prophet are, right? The beast and the false prophet. If you go once again, which I mentioned earlier, when you go into the book of Revelation, when it talks about the beast with the 7 heads and the 10 horns, those are all Edomite nations. And those nations are going to be destroyed here. All right. And the false prophet, and shall be tormented day and night forever. All right. That lake of fire, once again, that lake of fire is America and it's burning. That's what that lake of fire is. And this is after World War III. And it's going to be consuming our oppressors and those who lied to us about who we are. So that means there will be Israelites here. Right? There will be people that are not worthy to come up on those chariots and be saved. That's what salvation is, being saved from your enemy. That's what Luke, the 1st chapter, the 71st verse says. That's what salvation is. But you're not going to receive that salvation if you want to be with your enemy. If you want to help your enemy to deceive us on who we are. Verse 11. This is what they call this the great white throne judgment. This is just the judgment. This is just the judgment. This is all one thing. There's no interruption in this. It's all one thing. Verse 11 says, and I saw a great white throne and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and heaven fled away. It's talking about the Most High. And there was found no place for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God. And the books were opened. And this is the scary part for y'all that don't keep the law, y'all that want to oppress the Israelites. This is the scary part for y'all, because now the books are open. All of the deeds that that you've done in your life are going to be in this book. Everything. Understand that the angels are in heaven right now recording me talking. Every idle word shall be accounted for. That's what the Bible says. So me talking, I'm being recorded right now. That thing that you did in your closet, the thing that you did behind closed doors, the thing that you did in the dark, that's going to be brought to the light. It's in the book. And that's going to be opened up in the face of the Most High. And that's the book. And then now we're going to talk about two different aspects to this, right? We talk about the book of life. It says, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the book, according to their works. So you're going to be judged according to your works. We all understand that Christians will tell you, it ain't about me doing the deed of the law. It's just about what's in my heart. But your heart ain't doing no work besides pumping blood into your stupid head, right? But you have to do work. You have to do work. And so the things that you do, that's what you're going to be judged for, not your silly feelings. Your feelings don't matter to the Most High. He don't give a damn how you feel as long as you do what you're supposed to do. But a lot of Christians have been telling y'all to do the wrong thing. Don't worry about the law. Don't keep the law. If you keep the law, it's sin. If you eat pork, it's okay. You just gotta pray over it. That's the work, and those are evil works, evil deeds, and you're going to be judged for those things, right? All right. So that's what you're going to be judged, and this is according to your works. You have to be careful about everything that you do. Once again, the scriptures say this: that the Most High's eyes are in all places, beholding everything, right? And His eyes are 10,000 times brighter than the sun. The Most High can see all of these things. So when we talk about the end time, we talk about this prophecy. You should be afraid of this thing. You should be scared. We're gonna read verse 13. And it says, it's lucky. And it says, and the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell were delivered up. Slugging. And death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them, and they were judged every man according to their works. You can't escape this. You think death is a way to escape this, but you can't escape this. The Lord is going to regenerate you, and you're going to still have to pay for the things that you've done. There's no way out of it. You're still going to be judged by your work. Verse 14 says, and death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. Right? So if your deeds didn't add up to what you were supposed to do, if you did the wrong thing, you're going to end up in that lake of fire. Right? Which means when the chariots come, which a lot of people would call UFOs, right? Or flying saucers, whatever you want to call them, that when those come, you're not going to be brought up on those to be delivered from that death. You're just going to have to stay there when the thermonuclear missiles come and destroy this place. You're going to be right in the line of fire. All right. And just to touch on verse 14, when it says death and hell were cast into the lake of fire, understand this. This is all symbolic. All right. And America being destroyed symbolizes the end of our constant death and suffering. Death and hell. So death is us dying the way that we do right now. Dying. What's the one brother? PNB Rock. The brother just died. Right. That's death. Death ain't. And we talking about this type of aspect. Death ain't you dying, 100 and something years old on your deathbed, surrounded by your family because you're just old as hell, and your organs is giving out because you're old, dying of natural causes. That's the way I would love to go. But death is dying like PNB Rock, and blood coming out in puddles from your goddamn body in front of your family, and being posted all over the internet for everybody to see. That's death. You understand? Death is George Floyd getting murdered. Death was young Dolph getting murdered. All of these brothers that are dying way too goddamn young. These crackheads that are overdosing and dying at young ages. These drug addicts, these blues out here, and this fake fentanyl they got running around here in Phoenix. And you dying young from that. That's death. Death ain't dying old and and decrepit on your deathbed, surrounded by family. That's a beautiful thing. That's going to exist in the kingdom. You're going to die. But you're not going to die the way that PNB Rock died. You're not going to die the way the young Dolph died, right? And then when it talks about that hell being cast in the lake of fire, it's talking about our condition. Our condition in America has been absolutely terrible. It's hell. That's what it is. And that's going to go into the lake of fire. And this is symbolic for the fact that America being destroyed means wickedness gets destroyed with it, because America is wickedness. And that's the second death. And I look forward to that. And whosoever was not found in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. Once again, those who disobey God will be left in America to suffer that destruction when them chariots come to deliver the saints. Them chariots that I'm talking about, 1 Thessalonians 4:17. We read it at the beginning of this class, right? Christ is going to return with them chariots to beam us up and get us the hell out of this place before that happens. But you'll just be stuck here. You'll just be stuck here. All right. I just got a little bit more. Being Daniel chapter. I just want to reiterate what I'm talking about, because once again, this is the accurate, like, Revelation, the 20th chapter is a very important chapter to understand when you talk about end time prophecy. It's important to be able to break down. All right. All right, so we're just going to read this. We'll wrap it up right after this. So we're going to read Daniel, the second chapter, beginning at the 40th verse. All right. So it says, and the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron. Now, this is the Most High giving a vision to Daniel of a statue. All right. And this statue has different features. Different parts of his body are different types of metal and material, right? The head of the statue, I believe, is brass, which is for Babylon, right? And you come down, you keep on coming down, keep on coming down. We're going to be at the legs of this statue, right? And that's what verse 40 is talking about. It says, the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron. So now the legs of the statue is talking about iron, or being likened to iron. It says, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. That iron is talking about the ancient Roman Empire, the empire that Christ was under the Caesars, right? What's that?
No,
It's like, okay, you good, you good. So that ancient, that excuse me, that iron is talking about the ancient Roman Empire under the Caesars, the same empire that Christ was under. You get what I'm saying? That's what that iron is talking about. So as we read forward, we're gonna come. As we read forward, just understand who that iron is, and understand that Rome plays a very extensive part in everything that's going on right now. Understand that America is Rome as well. America is literally from Rome. That's why a lot of the architecture that you find here is Roman architecture. Architecture. Look at the Capitol building. You understand? Look at the White House. It's all Roman architecture. All right, because America has taken on the traits of Rome. Because now, just like how they crucified Christ in Rome, they crucified blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans in America. All right. Excuse me, Salaki. All right. So now, just remember that iron is Rome. And it says, and whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, now we moving down. Now we off the legs, we on the toes now. It says the feet and toes. It says, and whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron. So this is a divided kingdom, but Rome is still a part of this kingdom. Just understand that. All right. And we're going to understand who that clay is in just a second. It says the kingdom shall be divided. All of these kingdoms that we're going to go into are coming out of Rome. All right. It says, but there shall be in it the strength of the iron, meaning the Roman Empire is what's going to give these other kingdoms their strength. All right. Going on, it says, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. So understand this. I want y'all to just, if you want to take notes, take the notes. If you don't want to, you can come back and watch this, find out the minute mark, and you come back and you can take these notes. But this is what the 10 toes is. Those 10 toes. You got the feet and you got the toes. All right. And remember, we saw that it was divided, but their strength is going to be the strength of the iron, right? Because these nations came out of Rome. So the 10 toes are the 10 kingdoms. And those 10 toes are Belgium, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, Denmark, Ireland, Switzerland, Australia, Scotland, Sweden, and, of course, the USA or America. All right? Those are the 10 toes. Those are the 10 kingdoms that came from Rome, and their strength is off of the it's funny how this happened, right? Because this is talking about the feet, right? These nations stand on the Roman Empire. If y'all can understand what I'm talking about. Those nations, everything that they are is because of the Roman Empire. All right. And this is talking about the ancient Roman Empire, the time of the Caesars. Okay. So now we're going to keep reading. Once again, if y'all need those again, y'all rewind video, go back 7 heads and the 10 horns. You find that those are all those Edomite nations. All right. Which once again shows you that the white man is the devil. I mean, it's just those are all Edomite white nations. Right? I don't know what to tell y'all. It's that simple. And that's the proof. Right? Because they call the beast Satan and the devil. So that's what it is. So now verse 42. And it says, and as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. Meaning these nations, all of these nations, including the USA, including America, right? These nations, yeah, they strong because of where they come from, but they're partly broken. They're partly easily to destroy, right? Verse 43. And whereas thou saw iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. Verse 44. And in those days, the kingdom of the Salaki. And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom. So in the day that these kingdoms and these different kings are being set up in place, right? And ruling, especially ruling over us, the Most High is going to set up a kingdom. He's building a kingdom. That's what's happening right now in front of your eyes. There's a kingdom that's being established right now in the earth. And that kingdom, which we keep going, it says, which shall never be destroyed, which once again refutes that millennium period prophecy that the Christians hold so near and dear to. Because this kingdom is never going to be destroyed. Satan is never going to be able to override it, nor will he ever want to, because Satan is an obedient angel. Right? When this kingdom comes, there will be no more captivity. There will be no more of the other nations deceiving us. Right? And if we keep reading, it says, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, because this kingdom is going to belong to the Israelites. It's a good precept to bring up when you talk about salvation. Bring this precept up, Daniel 2:44. This precept is talking about the fact that the Israelites are going to possess the kingdom, and it's not going to be left to other people. Nobody else is going to say, "Oh yeah, we get to be kings with y'all." No, it's blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans ruling forever. And it says, if we keep reading, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. So now, this kingdom that's going to be established by the Most High is going to be a kingdom that can never be overthrown. You know, Rome done fallen about, I don't know how many times, too many times. More times than the kingdom of heaven is going to fall. Like the Roman Empire done fell and rebirthed a million goddamn times. That's not going to happen with the kingdom of the Most High. The Most High is going to establish his kingdom, and it's going to be that way forever. Right? Verse 45 says, for as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands. This is something else. If you read back up, you'll see this is part of Daniel's vision. That stone that was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it break in pieces the iron. So this stone is strong enough to destroy the iron. All right? To destroy the iron, which of course is the Romans, and the brass, which is the Babylonians, the clay, the silver, the gold. The great God hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter. And the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. That stone that we're talking about, that's able to break down all of those kingdoms, that's the kingdom of God. Remember, all the other kingdoms had a metal that was assigned to them as a metaphor or as a similitude. But the stone is going to be what the kingdom of God is, and it's going to break all of the other elements down. You understand? And so that's the breakdown. That's it. That's the end of the chapter. That's it. It's real simple, and so I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that, because that's when you get to these like end time prophecies, it's dangerous to play with, because you have to let the people know. The scriptures say that we have to sound the alarm, right? Isaiah 58 chapter tells us that we have to cry aloud to our people and show our people their transgressions, right? And we have to warn our people. The book of Ezekiel talks about that, right? How we have to warn our people, tell them what's coming. But you can't tell them what's coming if you don't know what's coming. Revelation, the 20th chapter is what's coming, and you have to know what to look out for, right? You have to know who the devil is. Like, people think that we just say the white man's the devil just because we feel like hating white people. No, it ain't nothing about that. You just have to know who your enemy is. If you don't know who your enemy is, you're going to end up like so many blacks and Hispanics who have trusted white people. You're going to end up like the Native American Indians on goddamn reservations because you trusted white people to keep their word in those 200 treaties. You trusted them. And they broke them all, and they took your land, and now you're on reservations. We trusted white people far too many times. Didn't they trust Dylan Stormroof? They trusted him. Coming to damn congregation.
Yeah, sat in there for a good minute.
Listened to the damn black sermon, all of that. And then blew everybody the hell away. We all dumb like that. So we need leaders and teachers to tell us what to look out for. We tell you the white man is the devil, not because you should go out there and kill white people. We don't condone that. But you should separate from them. You should know that these people ain't my friends. Ecclesiasticus, the 12th chapter, tells you to never trust your enemy. How you know who your enemy is unless somebody tells you, unless it's proven to you. Now, here's the thing: everybody else, all the other nations, they know who their enemy is, right? The white man knows who their enemy is. Arabs, they know who their enemy is. They know the white man is their enemy. Then nobody tell them that. But for us, because the Bible tells us, Hosea 4:6, we destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Y'all gotta be told. I had to be told. I had to be told who my enemy was. And then once I figured it out, I said, God damn, this is the reason why we've been able to get killed. Why we've been able to, when they came and dropped them damn crates of guns and firearms in our neighborhoods, we should have been like, damn, they ain't doing us a favor. They ain't doing this so we could protect ourselves. They doing it so we could kill each other. We should. No, I ain't dealing with that. When they gave us crack cocaine, we should have been like, nah, I can't trust. You thought? Listen, we thought that they was doing a good thing. Oh, this is where we can get our hustle on, get our money, get out the hood. No, you're gonna kill millions of black people with that. There's gonna be a pregnant mother who smokes her last crack rock. She's gonna overdose, and that life inside of her is gonna die. Right now. Them damn, oh my God, I was watching a thing about these blues that they got. The blues is basically fake fentanyl pills. They started off selling them for $15 a pop. Hard to get. They're selling them things for anywhere between 50 cents and $3 a pop. Which means what? That the market is there to keep blacks and Hispanics addicted. That's all it is. Imagine having to only pay $50 for a drug that gets you so high you nod out. You know how much heroin cost? That's what the real drug is. Like heroin was the thing back in the day. Like that was what you would do that to get actually high. You nod out and all of those things, and that was like that was the drug, but it was expensive. Yeah, and it was expensive, and it was black people were using it, but then they started when white people started using it more than us. They said, "Hold on, let me back up off of that. Hold on, let's get these cats some methadone clinics and get them off of this drug because we can't have destroyed white people, right?" But the point is, just like Psalms the 83rd chapter says, they have taken crafty counsel against the Israelites. Crafty counsel. And because it's so crafty, us as blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, we have to be told, hey man, don't you see what he's doing to you? Don't you see what he's doing? So that's why these things are necessary. That's why the breakdown on Revelation the 20th chapter is important. And that's why the proper breakdown is important. Imagine thinking, damn, Jesus Christ gonna come back and he's gonna get thrown off of his throne by Satan, and we're gonna have to, God damn, black people gonna feel like, damn, I can't catch a break. Christ's gonna return. I'm gonna be able to have heaven for a little bit, and then I'm gonna go back to hell. God damn, you understand? So my point is this: that's the breakdown on Revelation the 20th chapter. Hold that near and dear to you, because that's what we have to look forward to. We have to look forward to that our oppressor is going to be put in chains and bound up forever. Not just for the 1,000 years, but after that, when the lake of fire comes and America is destroyed, death and hell are going to be cast into that place, and we're not going to have the Black American experience. You understand? We're going to have the experience of living in the kingdom of heaven. That's a kingdom that'll never be destroyed. With that being said, shalom.